So please join me in standing for the invocation. SR Nathan Stewart enlisted in the Marine Corps in 1983. In 1984, he went to boot camp at MCRT San Diego, where he entered infantry training school with an MOS of 0351 and anti-tank assaultman. His duty station at Brunswick Naval Air Station in Maine, where he served as a special weapons guard. In 1986, he went to 29 Palms, California, where he served with the 3rd Light Armored Vehicle Battalion. In 1989, he deployed to Camp Fuji, Japan, with the Combined Arms Training Center. In 1990, his duty station went back to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, where he served with the 3rd FSSG, the Force Service Support Group. In November 1990, he deployed to Desert Storm and Operation Desert Shield and Operation Desert Storm. He returned back to Camp Lejeune in 1991 through 1994, where he served with the 2nd Light Armored Recon Battalion. In 1994, he enlisted with the Army National Guard in the state of New York. He served with Detachment 2, Bravo Company, 342nd Forward Support Battalion. From 1995 to 2005, he was in the Utah National Guard, where he served with the 115th Maintenance Company, and then went to Germany, where he was with the 19th Special Forces in Africa, 300th MI, and the 1457th Engineer Battalion. In 2005, he was at the Echo Company General Support Aviation Battalion, and then in 2008, they deployed to Operation Iraqi Freedom with 3rd Army, where he was awarded the MSM for successful leadership of a movement control team, which culminated with 100.5 tons of cargo and personnel moved. In 2009, he served with 2nd of the 211th in Echo Company, the General Support Aviation Battalion, where he was promoted to 1st Sergeant to be 1st Sergeant of that company. He attended Sergeant Major Academy in 2016 and then was reassigned to the Joint Forces Headquarters, Utah National Guard in 2016. Then in 2017, he was assigned to Operation Yamasura, Japan. In 2018, he came over to us, re-enlisting in the United States Army Reserve in the 96th Sustainment Brigade, where he has served from this time. So a little bit of his employment history. In 1996, he was hired on with CSMS, and he served there through 2018. That's a Combined Support Maintenance Shop at the Utah Headquarters National Guard. And then in 2018, he moved over to ECS 37 BMA-1, which is the Equipment Concentration Site Basic Maintenance Area. In 2020, he was promoted to the HMER Inspector, and he has served there through present. Next, we will be followed by Lieutenant Colonel Adam Sherman, who will be providing a speech for us.
So I wasn't told there'd be troops in formation, so all my really awesome jokes are going to be just cut. We'll trim those out. Standing. Nate, it's good to see you. That's for my family reunion speech next week. Sorry, just a second. Okay. All right, we're gathered here today. So this stuff is only going to make sense to people that know me. So if you don't know me, I apologize. But here we go. Okay, we're gathered here together today to remember the life of Nate Stewart. I was saddened but not surprised to hear of his demise. It was out of love that we warned Nate about the dangers of not washing his coffee cup. He would usually grumble something about how he was a Marine and a real man, and real men don't wash their coffee cups. In the end, he couldn't tell the difference between the coffee and the 5W40 sitting next to his workbench. If it were only 10W30, has the same viscosity as his coffee, he might have survived. Viscosity for all you non-maintenance folks. I'll talk about it later. Okay. So, an article in the Journal of Gerontology. For all you maintenance folks, gerontology is just old bastard. That's what. Gerontology means old bastard. So in 2021, the article written by researchers from the University of Cologne, Germany, and University of California found that retirement was generally associated with moderate decrease in word recall and memory decline. Accelerated after retirement. So this is a big deal. We're all very concerned about it. I don't know who they're kidding. If that's true, I would have been retired at least 6 years ago. So the thing about us military folks is we tend to be institutionalized. Uniform and our job that comes with. There are missionaries here, and I just realized that. It's gonna be fine. It's a Jay Golden. I've been too darn fast. All right. The thing about us military folks is we tend to be institutionalized. Our position comes with the uniform. The uniform is all the accoutrement that comes with being a leader, being a mentor, rank, position. It comes with a lot. And as we retire, we take off that uniform. And sometimes we can lose ourselves a little bit. There's a lot of identity that comes along with uniforms, the red, the name, and the uncomfortable boots. As we take it off, sometimes we're left with only the memories of who we used to be, what we used to do, and so what can we do to kind of ease this transition between wearing ACU pants and army boots to the inevitable dad jeans from Costco? So this article had a few things. So here we go. All right. First thing is stay active. You might need to continue to be active. ACFT, just because you don't have to do that doesn't mean it's an excuse just to sit around. Okay. Minimize stress. Now, this article had these very specific things in there, and I had to leave some of them out. Minimize stress, sleep, use a budget. Don't forget about extracurricular activities. Good, one person got it. Have a plan. You need to have a plan. What are you going to do when you retire? I heard about Alaska in August. I didn't get an invite. It's fine.
Nor did I, sir.
What's that?
Nor did I.
Bad friends. So I think when we met, I was a platoon leader in the Forward Support Company for aviation. Aviation has organic forward support companies. There isn't a higher like BSB or ASB that farms those out. It's ILE for you. I graduated. You're welcome. So I was a platoon leader. I think you were the motor sergeant, and out in West Jordan, and we worked with Blackhawks. Eventually, you became the first sergeant. I think we did our change of responsibility and change of command on the same day during the same thing. So that was pretty cool. So here's what you did. You took a good company, you made it great. You cared about the people, you cared about the mission. You took great care to mentor the NCOs and put them in the driver's seat. Some of the stuff that NCOs do was kind of somewhat held at a higher level. So we broke all that down and we enabled folks to be able to do their job. We gave them the tools and the training, and we let them run with it. From training plans, section time, to accountability of equipment, the NCO teams, sections and platoons finally had a say, and they owned it. There were some amazing people that we got to work with. We had amazing young leaders that matured and grew in that incubator that you fostered. From that group came, I think, 3 shop chiefs, 1 transportation warrant, 1 maintenance warrant, and at least 4 UH-60 pilots and a chaplain. A chaplain came out of that unit. All right. Your influence, for better or worse, spread like a cancer. Spread throughout the Utah National Guard. and it's possible. We'll always remember your success and your contributions. When others see an old bastard, we'll see a leader, a mentor, who needs to replace the tennis balls in his locker, and a friend. And what gets me is when you see an old guy, he's wearing his Vietnam hat, his World War II hat, or his Korea hat. And for us, we look at that guy and we have an inkling of what he might have gone through or she might have gone through. And a lot of other people just don't see beyond the age for what they've done. And so we'll make sure that we don't do that for you, and I'll tease you a little bit along the way. So my final thought is, as I was a captain, we were going to AT. I was in a big truck, because I like driving a big truck, so I let the soldier drive it to AT, and I was gonna drive it back. I got in trouble with the truck a couple times, but it all worked out, they could tow it. So, we're doing this convoy. I am not the convoy commander, but I'm a newly minted captain and a company commander. Has anyone worked with a newly minted captain? We are a nightmare. We're a nightmare. So, I'm on the radio because I'm the TC, I'm not driving, so I'm on the radio, and obviously I'm not the convoy commander, but I'm the commander, so I have to talk on the radio. All the time. Constantly talking. Nate Stewart has the patience of an angel. He groomed me in a positive way. He molded me into the Iron Major that loves MDMP you see before you today. The bottom line is, you've done a good job.
Thank you, sir.
Good job. Appreciate it. All right. Thank you very much.
We'll now be honored to hear a speech from retired Chief Jared Marquis, who's a former 96 soldier, and he's bringing his beard with him.
He embraced retirement quickly.
Has been shaved since December.
Oh,
That's right.
Well, knowing now that you made a lieutenant colonel that loves NDMP, I'm
more
disappointed.
concerned.
I'm mad. He knows how much I hate MDMP, just because usually on my part it's very simple. Because as a maintainer, you always do it. Simple. Like 5 minutes, we're done. We got our MDMP done. And then I gotta wait for all the other S sections to get done. Oh, thanks. Now we can do our speech. But, Master Stewart loves speaking. Anyone in this section knows he loves talking, he loves mentoring. Luckily for me, I know when he retired the same year I was born, or when he joined the same year I was born, 1983. So I'll always know when Master Sergeant Stewart joined the Marine Corps, and I totally forgot to, I need to order, I'll get you crayons.
Okay. Just make him great.
Great player, great. One thing I wanted to highlight is mentorship. As one comes to the ranks, the great ones want their soldiers to be better than what they are. And Master Sergeant Stewart is definitely one of them. And I just want to convey that to everyone. You are a mentor. You just need one more minute of experience more than the guy to be a mentor. In that one little area. They can have experience in other areas, but you can always be a mentor. I remember when I went to candidate school, you had the 6-week course, 4-week course. I was in the 4-week because we were NCOs first. And I was only in candidate school for 2 weeks, and the 6-week course we were already showing how to do things, dress right dress, how to salute, like all the weird things that you have to do in candidate school. And I was already a mentor. That gave me a wow factor, like, oh yeah, it's easy to be a mentor. I know it's easy for Master Sergeant Stewart to be a mentor, because he always gave advice. Astronaut. It was always appreciated. He has so much experience, but I just want the soldiers here to know, be a mentor. Teach the other soldiers how to do that one task easy. Like, I remember going through AIT, and the Master Sergeant at AIT school said, hey, there's a tire winch on that Hemet. Get your belt, use that to pull the starter out. The starter weighs 100 pounds. So ever since then, I told my soldiers, go use that tire winch and pull that starter out. Simple task, and something easy to pass on. So, like I say, you just have to have one more minute of experience. I calculated this out. You got a lot of minutes. You have 21,024,000 minutes of experience in the military. So, sacrifice, everyone here sacrificed something for someone, for his nation, for your family. And in school, work, we all sacrifice something. But remember, there's someone out there that appreciates that work. I know Master Stewart and I have both been to Kuwait and Iraq, not at the same time, but we've both been there. He was in Kuwait and Iraq in 1990, 1991, right? And I was there 12 years later. And there was someone there thanking me for what 100,000 more troops or more, what they did. Or Kuwaiti National thanked me for what I did. Like, I didn't do it. He did it, right? Or someone in here may have. I'm just saying that, when you're being thanked, not necessarily, thanking you, but thanking all of us. We've all lost someone out there. I lost somebody out there. So I always think about that. When they thank me for my service, I thank them. I thank them for their appreciative. But I remember, it's not about me. It's about how we all work together and took care of. We all work together. Everyone else before us worked together for that mission, and someone appreciates it. Even when I was there in OIF 1, you have nationals thanking you to get rid of the Saddam. And there's so many Iraqis that thank me. I just helped. I was just a simple little mechanic that fully forward. But there's someone out there everywhere thankful for our service. So I just want to say, yes, we are just a little piece in the puzzle, piece of the army, but at the same time, we're a large piece. Make a difference with everyone around us. Strive to be, I'm always going to be all you can be soldier. Always try to be better. That's the point. Always try to help your soldiers be better next time. Next time you convoy, let's do it better. Next time we do this, let's do it better. Like even with your children. Next time you hope they do it better. Right, Cash? That's my boy Cash there next to El Fairbanks. So don't bite him.
Please don't.
But be all you can be. An army strong. I don't know what is the motto these days, but we can make a difference. And there's some out there that would be very grateful for what we do. And really appreciate what Master Stewart has done. I had to deal with them for 5 long years. But he was there. We helped each other out, discussed. We went to units and tried to help them become better maintainers. We've been turning wrenches all our lives and really appreciate it. So that's all I got to say. Sorry for taking so long. But it's been an honor knowing him and an honor serving with all you guys. And that's it.
Kleenex.
Okay, so I want to draw attention. So Sonia, Nate's daughter, couldn't be here with us, but she sent a piece of her heart. She sent him a blanket with the DD-214 on it. But anyway, so I spent a little bit of time and with Ben Grimstead, where are you, my friend? Thank you. With his help, I put together his 40-year career, and we put it into a shadow box for him, and so here you go, sweetheart. This is every unit that he served with, pins and patches in the beginning of your career, and I can't tell you how proud I am of you.
Not quite as cool as Lieutenant Colonel Sherman with his phone and notes. Or chief. I'll catch up somehow. Colonel Fairbanks, Command Sergeant Major Smith, Lieutenant Colonel Snow Clark, and Command Sergeant Major Sanders, thank you. Thank you for the time. Just family, thank you for showing us. I look out, there's a lot of faces. The mentorship is strong. I look at people I know in this audience that I had direct relations with somehow. How did I get here? My father had, he had only two couple, he was a retired Navy guy. He's never pounded Nick, you need to be Army or whatever. He just always said, hey, the military did well for me. It provided for our family, it was there. That was his only guidance as far as joining the military or anything like that. So here I'm at, graduated high school. I live out in Rangeley, Colorado. That's just across the border from Utah. And I'm working on an oil field. I'm working on a maintainer rig that keeps that place operating. I'm 20 years old. You know, I'm like, Johnny, how old are you? Oh, I'm 35. The guy looked like he was 70. And they're like, man, I'm not gonna do this for the rest of my life and have the weather and all that environment beat me up. So I run off and join the Marine Corps, and I go live out in the jungles and in the forests and in the woods, you know, in the weather. So for 40 years, been doing ATs in places that you wouldn't want to be in. But the reality is that decision brought me here today. As Lieutenant Colonel Sherman mentioned, my biggest takeaway from our time together as command, let alone all the influence that we had together and the command team that we built. So he liked the big trucks. Teach me how to drive it, sir. Okay. So we had our troops, they were all, once the maintenance was finished, they were being put into OPFOR positions or into SEER positions. They'd be out in as a counter, as an OPFOR, doing SEER exercise. So SEER, if you don't look, you know it, it's S-E-R-E. Go look it up, learn it, enjoy it, because that's where things get fun. We'd have them out in the field getting searched by search and rescue, and they tried to avoid these folks. They didn't want to get found. They didn't want to be rescued. They just wanted to make the search and rescue teams work harder. So we're down in Farron, which is in the middle of Utah. And we're driving a truck, 2.5 ton, in the dark, just blackout dry. In a dry lake, or dry riverbed. And you can't see. Okay, it's dark, you cannot see. Can I make that? I don't know. Just wait and hang on. And it's up. So if you've driven with blackout dry, your scope of vision is about this way and about 2 feet in front of your truck. So when that light goes up into the sky, you don't see nothing else. What's on the other side? I don't know. That's the conversation. What's on the other side? I don't know. Drive. Let's go. He goes over. Luckily, it was just a nice downhill, and it scared everybody, which is just him and I. And we found our troops. Tell them they did a great job. We had a great time with it. So in the Marine Corps, you go into that, so here I am, fresh, yeah, I'm 20, so my hair's a little longer. A lot longer. Walk through that door, come off that bus, walk in, get that first haircut, and it's like magnet to your head. It's like, where'd it go? Right? You're shocked. And then they proceed to strip that identity away. You know, so the boot camps of that period were pretty rugged, pretty stringent. And they made sure they stripped that identity away so you could cohesively join together as a team. And then they built that aspect up through the rest of the training. And that's followed me for 40 years, and that's what I've always tried to instill on my soldiers, all my people, is we're part of a team that's about 1.5 billion strong. It might be a little smaller nowadays, but there's a lot of Army out there. Yet it's still a small force when you think about it, because Chief Marquez, Mr. Hunter, back there in the formation, and the young man that's Brian Busk, I think he's a W4 now, school together. And I knew them all. That's how small this Army becomes and how fast. We were really diverse. We're talking National Guard people, you know, Army Reserve people, and now the active duty guy, yet we all knew each other. That's how small the Army gets really fast. But we're all a team. We're all one fight. And that's the focus, is your mission to that one fight. So the big takeaway from the deployments was, so Desert Storm, everybody wanted, we're out in the minefields. They'd laid a minefield around Kuwait, around the border, they being the Iraqis. And it was a classic Russian minefield. I mean, you pull out a Russian manual, and it's burns, minefield, burns, minefield, burns. And everybody was leaving their stuff in that minefield. They blow a track off, they pop a tire with a mine, whatever. Hey, you need to go recover that stuff. Spent 3 months in that minefield recovering everything that any branch had that they left in there. They just gave us coordinates, we'd go over there and we'd get it. So we rolled up on a piece of equipment, it's called a Miklik. Okay, Miklik's just this big trailer with 4 tons of C4 in the bed of it, and a rocket with a string. And it drags it out, you hit the rocket, it flies off, it drags all these little bricks out behind it, lays out, and then the little guy goes click, 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 and boom, and it blows a line. Yeah, well, there's no rocket, there's 4 tons of C4 sitting in there. In the minefield. That was live and active. And EOD's over there. Hey, Sarge, we think we got it cleared. Your first question is, think? You're not for sure? We did our best. Okay. So we hook up to it, and this particular one had a track system on the dual tires, and it rolled. Dirt rolled out of that track, and out rolls this anti-personnel mine. They're about that big, about 6 inches in diameter, right? And if the guys weren't puking or shitting themselves, we were on our knees praying, because that thing didn't go off. If that would have went off, we'd have vaporized. It was high intensity. So another thing that came from Desert Storm that's really cool is that before we deployed over there, I was down at Fort Huachuca. I was working with an air defense system. We're at Fort Huachuca at this high frequency little bubble that's on the backside of that post. And they were doing work with the radios, you know, seeing what could trigger the rockets to fire if they hit a right frequency and all this other weird stuff. There was this civilian guy that would roll out. He was in a wheelchair. He was a polio victim. We were talking, I got to know him a little bit. So finally I was like, what are you doing every day? Because he'd set up this little tiny parabolic antenna. It's about this big around. It looked like a really tiny radar dish, just a little thing. I'm like, so what are you doing here? He's like, oh, I'm testing GPS. I'm like, what the heck is GPS? He says, global positioning system. He says, right now there's only 8 satellites up in the sky. He says, every morning at 8, 4 come in the range. I do a bunch of tests. They pass out a range, and then in the afternoon, another 4 comes in the range. He says, eventually there will be 24. I don't know how many are up there right now. There's a bunch more than 24, I can tell you that. How we were finding all that equipment in that big desert called Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, the Middle East, was because that was probably in June of '90 that I saw that piece of equipment being tested. My first recovery mission, I spent half a day with a map and a compass trying to find a tank that had blown its track off on the edge of that minefield. And it was an all-day event. The next mission came down, and the camp commander at that time was, I'm going with you. This guy was excited. We're like, we're just gonna go recover junk. He's like, no, we're gonna use this thing. He had this funky looking box. I was like, what the heck's that? He says, this is GPS. I'm like, no way. That thing was just being tested 4 months ago in Fort Huachuca. And he's like, yep, we got it. And he had a coordinate. We rolled up. It took us 3 hours. So, yeah, technology was cool. You still got to know your fundamentals, folks. Work your fundamentals. And where you're going for AT, you're going to need your fundamentals. So, the 96 gives us a lot. It's a great company. It's a great command. They're very integrated. You're going to AT. I swear to you guys, that is a memory that you're going to cherish. Every BA, every AT that you do and you interact with these folks, you have to remind yourself, I am interacting with the 1% of the 350 million Americans. And we are bonded through that interaction. Some people call it a trauma bond. Others just were bonded through that event. You know, we share, if you just really think about it, in your section, when you're sitting there talking, all of a sudden you're sharing stuff that your mom doesn't even know about. Why? Because you're comfortable. You're identified with this group. You've lived through the boot camp experience, through the AT, the BA weekends, the ATs. Those are your bonding moments, and share it. Do it as best as you can, and if you don't know, you ask. Ignorance is your enemy. Ignorance is not that you're stupid or you're dumb. It's simply that you do not know what is being asked of you. You remove that ignorance, you are going to be 10 times more effective at what you're trying to accomplish. So don't be afraid. Step it up, ask. So a good friend of mine up here and a mentor, I mentored him. This is my closing, or part of my closing. His words are, we held up our arms, we took an oath to plant the seeds in the garden of freedom, and spray and kills the weeds of tyranny and oppression of the meek. We guard the sheep in the darkest nights. We watched over all with tired eyes and smiled every morning in the mirror because of who we are. Every single one of you folks swore that oath, and that's what we live for. And that's what can carry you to this day, if you so choose to pursue a lengthy career as I have. Thank you, soldiers of the 96. Thank you, friends and family that you have shared with me.